Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining. It's a wonderful opportunity and privilege to be with you. Thank you very much for spending the last moments of your long weekend with me. I hope that it's going to be a really interesting and fun conversation. For those that didn't get the brief, this is a chat about what else is out there for junior doctors, for doctors in general, to grapple with this question, and hopefully get a little bit of guidance and a little bit of insights from a wonderful panel that I've asked to join. So I'm very excited to be here, very excited to chat and share my experiences and share hopefully the experiences of the panel as well. Before I begin, perhaps a little bit of a disclaimer. This is by no means a anti-clinical medicine live whatsoever, right? I have absolute mad respect for my colleagues and friends still in clinical practice. I think you guys are absolute rock stars, especially during COVID. You know, it's been really trying times emotionally, financially for some, and you know, you guys are really cracking on. But this is really born out of the need for myself in my development thus far, and for so many people that have reached out to me, you know, myself being in a non-clinical position, asking ourselves the question, yeah man, you know, clinical medicine is great, but what else is there? Surely there are other options that I can explore if I want to. So that's where we are. And it also comes from a place, I know, of being really tired, right? Burnout, long calls, really tough working conditions. People are just hurtful, honestly, of working in the clinical environment, and they want to explore what else there is to look forward to, and perhaps branch out into something different if the need arises. It also comes about from asking ourselves as doctors how well we are prepared for the future. Because if we think that we as medical people, if we as doctors are somehow future-proofed from, you know, the buzzword, the fourth industrial revolution is or yet to come in some instances, I think we were sadly mistaken. That's a fallacy. The 4IR is already and will eventually affect the way that all of us, all of our careers are shaped. And one very simple example of that is, you know, we are seeing more and more automation and more and more AI being used in medicine. And if, for example, you're in a field like radiology, what does that look like for you in the future? You know, 20, 25 years down the line, do you still have a recognized job as a radiologist interpreting medical imagery? Just as an example, I do hope there's no radiologists on the live. And then lastly, I think it's most importantly for me also, it's an opportunity, guys. It's an opportunity. I hear the call for being hurtful of clinical medicine. I hear the call for, you know, what about the future? But for me, it's an opportunity to show that you can thrive in a non-clinical sphere. You can absolutely take your career to the next level in a non-clinical sphere. And you do not have to compromise your values as a health professional. You don't have to think that you're throwing away your MBCHP degree, for example, as a health professional. And that opportunity I'll share throughout the live, but I'll touch on towards the end as well. So it's with great pleasure that I have the three guests with me, which I'll introduce one by one in a moment. In fact, I'll let them introduce themselves. All wonderful people, very clinical, non-clinical spheres, very journeys, very exciting to share to be able to share the experiences with you. But I thought I'd start off by quickly sharing my journey. My journey has also been somewhat unconventional since I finished my ComServe. It was sort of in the latter half of ComServe, probably around this time of the year in my ComServe, where I realized, shit, I don't have a CV. I don't know where I'm going. I've got a bond to pay. I've got medical aid bills to pay. I should probably start thinking about what's ahead and what's coming up in the future. And the best piece of advice which I got at that critical junction was, why the rush? Why the rush? Internet friend of mine, Dr. Rob, shared in the week some brilliant advice and wisdom. He said, this mantra that as soon as you finish ComServe, you need to jump into a MO position, gearing up to specialize, and then become a reg, and then you specialize and you become a specialist till you retire. That has to be questioned. There are no rules. Who governs this? Who said that when you become a doctor, that is your career path? We have to question it. And if it doesn't bring you joy, then why are you pursuing it? So pause, take a moment, reflect. And that's absolutely what I did. I took some time to think about what I like and what I don't like. What I don't like was much longer than what I like. And, I thought about pediatrics at the stage, I thought about psychiatry, but nothing really resonated that well with me. And it was in this confusion and mix and just allowing myself time to think that I did a lot of research and courses that shaped my career eventually into medical research, which was the next step after ComServe. I cannot say that it was completely on purpose. I mean, there was definitely an element of luck and mentorship that guided me along the way. But what a lovely experience. I absolutely loved being as part of a research study. I appreciated finally what it meant to conduct a research study, to be up to scratch with trial ethics, how to conduct a trial, touching on finance, really understanding how people management work, because as a medical officer, you occupy quite a senior role in the study. And it was experiences that I never had before. And from that moment, I knew personally, I wanted much more out of being a doctor than the one-on-one patient interaction. I had a real appreciation for population level health, and I wanted to impact health broader than just on the one-on-one interaction. And again, that's my journey, right? As I said at the beginning, this is not to step on anybody's toes that really loves and enjoys clinical medicine, but it's about sharing my values and my experiences so far. And then I transitioned into corporate. I work which is my current position. I work as a medical advisor for a life insurance company. And, at the time, it was already, again, another confusing moment. Was I taking a step backwards? Was I throwing away my medical degree, which in fact some people told me, becoming some sort of corporate cog? And it took me a long time to figure out my value in the organization. And I'm proud to say that now I have. Especially during COVID, I think I have finally understood what a doctor's role in organization is like that. And it is that, when you come into those environments, a corporate space, you as the health professional, you have health top of mind, right? That's great. That's ingrained into you early on. You have to think about other people and other people's health first. So when we look at policy payouts or designing products or thinking about how our small changes can affect downstream people's livelihoods and lives actually at the end of the day, if you don't have somebody that is thinking about the health implications of that constantly, it's a recipe for disaster. And so I feel that I am thriving in this role now when I've made that realization that the MBCHP is absolutely paramount to delivering real health value in any setting, corporate in this instance, but really in any setting. And if you log off now for whatever reason, that's the one message that I want to leave with you, that having the MBCHP, having a degree is absolutely paramount to branching out into any field. So that's my journey so far. I've obviously also, as you guys know, started doing these kind of interactions more and more. It's touching on the health education and communication space, which I again hope to grow into. And I'll share a little bit more about that towards the end, especially when I speak to Amy, who is far more advanced in this area. But without further ado, I just want to see if Sheetal is online, who is our first guest. And while she's joining, I just want to give some context. Sheetal is a senior medical research officer at the Desmond Tutu Foundation. And yes, hello Sheetal, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thank you, first of all, so much for making the time on this public holiday.
Yeah, thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Could you perhaps briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and your career journey so far?
Sure. I'm Sheetal Kassim. I'm a medical doctor as well. And I'm currently working in clinical research as a senior researcher and principal investigator at the Desmond Tutu Health Foundation. And my journey has been much like yours, Adele. So I started off in med school, actually not really knowing what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do medicine. And I think I remember this time in first year or second year where there was a lecturer who went around the room and like pointing, like, what do you want to do when you're done? Not even thinking about anything else, but what do you want to specialize in? Do you want to do surgery? Do you want to do medicine? Do you want to do peds? And I just sat there and I was like, how do all these people know exactly what they want
Yeah,
from now?
yeah,
So yeah, so it's and then I went into the clinical years and I just knew, like you as well, I knew what I didn't like. And I had a long list of what I didn't like, but most of all, I did not like ward rounds. I did not like long calls. I am not a night person. I can't stay up past 12. So I was thinking to myself, why am I even here? And then I hated theater as well. So I was like, what am I going to do? So for a while after internship and in ComServe, I was like, okay, maybe I should do peds. Started off doing some peds at Red Cross Hospital and then still wasn't fitting in. And I found myself by chance looking on the UCT website for jobs. And I found a clinical research post and I said, wait, let's try this. This sounds good. 8 to 5, not bad. And yeah, that's how I ended up here. You know, the pressure to find a specialty is so there.
yeah,
Like even now I get asked six years in my clinical research career, I get asked, so what are you specializing in, Sheila? And I'm just like,
yeah,
I'm doing public health, I'm doing clinical research. That's what I want to do.
yeah.
And it's not talked about at all. So that's me and that's my journey so far.
And I mean, yeah, a lot of shared experiences.
Yeah.
When you started, I'm sure you, like me, had no idea what to expect, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I started in this research study. I thought, I mean, am I physically examining the patients? Am I taking their blood? Am I putting in chest drains? What do you actually want me to do? Could you tell us what it is exactly a doctor does in a clinical study?
Yeah. So what a common misconception is about clinical research and working as a trial doctor is that you don't have any patient contact or
Yeah,
participant contact. But actually about 50%, it depends on how much you want to be involved in. But in the beginning, about 50% of your time is spent seeing patients. So healthy, normal volunteers mostly. You do have to examine them. You have to take a history, you know, basically like seeing a patient. And then interacting with patients is quite a lot of the work that we do. And then the other 50% is more admin stuff. So there's a lot of report writing, there's a lot of admin involved. With clinical trials, the doctor is mostly responsible for safety of our research participants. And so you do results checking, you do report writing, you liaise with sponsors and funders, and they have their endpoints that they want to meet. So you have to make sure that, you're reporting these things properly. But also, like I said, it depends on how much you want to get involved. So it could stop there. It could be like you 50% of the time seeing patients, 50% of the time doing some admin. And then, like you say, though, being a doctor in a clinical trial and being a doctor on a study, you take a senior position. So you could go into people management, you could become a
yeah,
leader, You could become a principal investigator, and that is taking charge of the entire clinical trial. And
Yeah.
then from there, you can branch off to a lot of other things. What I like about clinical trials is that it's so broad and it's changing all the time. You never do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
That's and it depends obviously what trials you're going to work on. So what I focus on is HIV prevention. That's what I started off as, HIV prevention trials, mostly HIV vaccines and PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis for adolescent girls and young women. And then obviously COVID hit, and then we branched off into COVID vaccine research. So then that change had to happen immediately, quickly,
Yeah.
because obviously there's a pandemic, we need a vaccine. Now the researchers are
Yeah.
called up, hey guys,
Yeah.
do your work fast. So so that's what it's about, and it's a broad field. There's a lot of community involvement as well. The research participants that you get, obviously you're getting them from a community. So there's a lot of information, there's a lot of talking to the community, seeing how they play a role in your clinical research studies, things like that. And then obviously I focus mostly on prevention research, but if it will be different if you do treatment research. So if you're doing HIV treatment, which is also some of the stuff we do, then you're obviously seeing treatment patients and you are their primary doctor with this new treatment that you're trialing. That's basically
What
it.
what I really appreciated about my time, and I alluded to in my intro, is that it was an opportunity as a junior health professional to be quite senior in the organization, because each study kind of operates independently. Yes, you've got
Yeah.
the banner UCT, but as you alluded to, the study has its own objectives that you must engage with and reach. So really, it's up to the individual study to be successful or not. And yeah, I mean, I started off fresh out of ComServe, but I was thrusted into this almost managerial position, doing performance reviews and things that I had absolutely no exposure to previously. And
Yeah.
I will admit I was a bit overwhelmed initially. But in hindsight, it was such a great opportunity to get thrusted into these roles and learn from it at a very junior stage in my career. And I constantly reference those skills now in my current job. Are those similar experiences that you have? And what are some of the other really rewarding and great opportunities that you've been exposed to?
Yeah. No, definitely similar experience. I got into the field also quite a junior doctor and thinking, okay, someone's gonna tell me what to do, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to check in with someone all the time. And actually, that's not it. You don't
Yeah.
present your cases to people. You don't just you don't have to discuss. If you make a call on something, that's your call. You're the senior person on the study. So
Yeah.
definitely those leadership skills, and then moving quickly into decision making and managing people, and yeah, those kind of skills that you don't necessarily get if you follow the traditional path. You don't get that quickly, at least. And yeah, the most important thing is what I like is it's also what you said earlier. So you realize that you can make a difference. Like the one-on-one patient interaction is there. That's one thing that I like, is that we have time to
Yeah.
spend with our patients.
Yeah.
So we get to focus on the social aspects of health, mental health, things like that. Not necessarily, we wouldn't be able to do that in a clinic or even in a GP office.
Yeah.
So I like that. And also you effect change at a larger scale. You deal with big picture problems. So HIV prevention, for example, getting PrEP out into a community who needs PrEP. I mean, that's amazing. So you can deal with those kind of problems. And obviously the most relevant experience at this moment is the COVID vaccine. So we were the ones doing the trials, and then you see that how your trials impact policy and how
Yeah.
you can bridge the gap between science and what people view as science and research, and then policy and implementation. And that's amazing. Yeah, and also, like I said, the broad nature of the field. I don't get bored, to be honest. Yeah, it's always changing, it's always different. There's new challenges every day, whether it's people-related challenges, which is often the case, or whether it's clinical challenges or recruitment challenges. So that's what I love about it.
The people challenges, yeah,
Yeah,
I think anybody that works on a clinical trial will have stories for days when it comes
yeah.
to those, and not following SOP,
Oh
and yeah,
gosh,
I mean, at
yeah,
times you often even feel like a policeman. I mean, one of my
yeah,
key functions was QC, and yeah, you felt like a policeman to go to the nurse and, why you,
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
31 kilos, it's 13 kilos, it's a child, 2-year-old child, so clearly that can't be. But yeah, what
yeah.
are some of the other what are some of the other challenging aspects of
Mm,
being a child? Definitely, I mean, as I said now, the people challenges. But one of the other factors or that I grappled with was the ethics around it.
mm,
Often we operate in really impoverished areas, and you have to explain the concept of informed consent and risk benefit and the placebo to often illiterate people
mm,
that just accept what you're going to accept in any case. And I found that quite challenging to
mm.
do. Again, I mean, is that something that you share? And what are some of the other more pressing challenges that you face on a daily basis?
Yeah. No, the ethical challenges are there, and one of the things I appreciate about the work I do and the field that we're in, and also being affiliated with UCT is a great thing. UCT has a really good ethical committee, and to learn from the people on the ethics committees is amazing. So yeah, like you said, like in the beginning, it was a big challenge to know that you're recruiting people from these impoverished communities to take part in a study, and basically people will say yes to anything for money,
Yeah,
right? And then how much of that informed consent are they actually taking in, or are they just saying yes because they need the $300 for XYZ, you
yeah,
know? So but then that's a big challenge, but also there's a way to like to work around that is knowing about your ethics, making sure that you align with your research studies.
mm,
Recently, there was a study where I was thinking, oh, do I really want to do this? And if I thought to myself, I don't want to do this, then why would I make someone else do it?
yeah,
So getting your own ethics in line, and also being able to make those decisions is good. Some of the other challenges, I was laughing when you said people challenges. You have to police people. Like you get there as a junior doctor, and then sometimes, like if you take initiative, you could become a more senior person in the study, more than a medical officer who's been there for like 10, 15 years, and they just don't want
yeah,
to be the principal
yeah,
investigator. Now you have to go to that guy and be like, you didn't write down like the blood pressure, or did you repeat the blood pressure on this patient?
yeah,
And those kind of challenges are difficult because you're a young doctor there trying to teach an older person. And you know that hierarchy that we learn in clinical medicine,
mm,
um, it's sort of like ingrained in us. So you go there and you go to the doctor and you're like, can you change this, please? But actually, you have the power as a senior person in the
yeah,
trial.
yeah,
um, so those are challenges. It's challenging to get away from that, to shift away from that hierarchy and from the thinking of being in the traditional clinical medicine. The other thing is that the one thing that I find challenging is to switch off, especially if you decide to take a senior role in the study. We work often with people who work in the States or overseas, and they get online at 3 o'clock, and then they
mm,
want answers from you. You think, I keep on thinking to myself, I'm not working in the emergency unit. Nobody's dying. So why
yeah,
do you need the answer now? But then we have to understand that that's their work and that's what they want. So the to switch off is a bit difficult sometimes, bringing
mm,
work home, but it's just about making sure that you have your boundaries and you can do that. But
yeah,
one oh one of the other challenges, like, so putting your life, like I say, it's difficult to switch off, right? And then you put your life into this clinical trial. You work your hardest, you try to get the patients. um I'm I'm talking about one of my HIV vaccine trials that I did. It was like a phase 3, so it was an efficacy study, and we were like, yo, this is the vaccine that's going to work. This is the one. And then they review all the data, and then they check out the results, and then they just call you on a meeting at 8 o'clock at night, and they're like, this thing doesn't work. You have to go tell all your patients who spent 3 years of their lives on this trial, hoping, and as well, you yourself hoping for this thing to work because you've put so much effort in it, and also because this problem needs to be solved, and there was just this ray of hope. And then to deal with that, it's more emotional than I thought it would be. It's more
Yeah.
taxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. But I think the rewards far outweigh the challenges for me.
And just on that, a negative result is still a result.
Yeah, that's
Very,
what you have
very
to keep telling
challenging.
yourself. Yeah,
No, but
it's still
challenging
a
to
result.
challenging to tell yourself in the moment. But
Mm,
I think the contribution to science overall, long
yeah,
term, I think if you take a
yeah,
view, is definitely worth it.
exactly. That's the nature of the work. That's the nature of research.
Before
Yeah.
I let you go, for people, I mean, I get the question all the time for my few years in research, but I'm sure you also get it almost on a daily basis.
Mm.
How do you have any tips on how you got into the field? Any tips for people, junior doctors, medical students thinking of the field? Just general
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, so I mean, I was really lucky to just stumble into this field and find my niche and grow in it, and I love my job. But for junior doctors who are not so sure about clinical medicine, like you say, also there's no rules, right? So
Mm.
you don't have to finish ComServe. You don't have to do ComServe in the field that you think you might want to
Yeah.
specialize in later on. That's just not a thing. Of course, we understand the time pressure and things, and depending on how you want your life to be, but there's no rules in medicine, and I think we need to really move away from that. We need to move away from people demanding as soon as you finish ComServe, okay, so what are you going to specialize in?
Yeah.
So where's your next step? Oh, but if you're doing locums, how are you going to get an MO post in your specialty? And then how are you going to get a registrar post? So the advice I would give would be first to say it's okay not to know immediately out of ComServe what you want. It's completely normal. Most of us have struggled with it. And there's so much more out there that we don't learn in med school. I
Yeah.
mean, in school for public health, I thought public health was doing systematic reviews and sitting at a desk and just like that's how it was presented to us, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot that goes into teaching people about other parts, other career paths as a doctor. And there is so much out there. And health is not only about treating a sick patient at a
Yeah.
clinic or doing
Yeah.
surgery. Health is so much more broad. It's so broad. And there's population level health. You can social health, mental health, everything. And if we look at it in that way, then we can see that clinical career paths are not our only option. And
Yeah.
then what I like is the platforms like this and social media. We are so connected with everybody. We're so connected with people who have stepped out of the field and people who are brave enough to even say, listen, I'm going to give up medicine. But like you say, our degree is paramount to the jobs that we do in the end. So you're not giving up your knowledge. You're not giving up your degree. You're not giving up. You're just giving up the clinical career path because of whatever reasons you have. And yeah, I have mad respect for people who stay in the clinical field. But if it's not for you, it's not for you. It is quite brutal. It can get you quite down. So I think the best advice I can give is if you're not sure, just ask. And there's so many people now who are willing to share their stories. Find us, ask us, come do your electives with us,
Yeah.
come spend some time with us, see what there is out there. And yeah, that's an open invite, hey? So anyone who wants to know about clinical research and how it works, you're welcome. And that's the advice I would give. But just don't feel the pressure of specializing and finding that specialty that you think people think that you should be doing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah,
You may find a few medical students taking you up on that offer, Shito. So
that's fine.
watch out for your
I'll
DMs.
be happy. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's been really insightful. I hope that it was as insightful for you as it was for me. I think I've learned quite a bit already. So thank you very
Yeah,
much, and
no,
I really
same.
appreciate that.
Thanks. And it's great to know that we have some shared experiences in the beginning, and I'm sure we'll find with the next few guests that we chat to will find the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Second on our list is Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I think this is actually the first time that we are actually chatting.
Yes, I'm super excited for this chat. Thanks for having me.
Me too. Me too. Thank you first of all very much for making the time. I know you are swamped with your studies and your health education platform and obviously still your clinical side. You haven't actually left clinical side.
No,
But
yeah, so much going on.
could you tell us a little bit about what you have going on?
Yeah, so just a bit of background for those who don't know me. I'm Amy Collier. I'm a medical doctor. I graduated at the end of 2015. And I got a bit burnt out in my ComServe, so I decided to travel afterwards. And when I came back from that, I did not feel like I was rested or ready to go back into government medicine. So I decided to start locuming in private. And it wasn't long before the pandemic hit. And, you know, it wasn't really the time to change jobs or like try to go back into government medicine. So I stayed in private. And I started to think of other options because I've always sort of had the same as what you and Sheetal have been saying of not knowing what I want to do, not knowing if I want to specialize or not, which kind of avenue I want to go down into. I started to think of what my talents are and what else I would like to be doing. And I have quite a creative side and I really enjoy writing. So I started doing that sort of at the beginning of the pandemic. And at that time, I also started to realize sort of the misinformation that was spreading about the pandemic, about COVID. I mean, we weren't even talking about vaccines at that stage, but I started to notice like how much people get their information from the internet and social media, and why is there so much misinformation spreading. And I started to learn about like the history of health and disease and pandemics, and so much like how do people's health beliefs come about. And I don't know, I just became very curious about health communication. And I also at that stage didn't feel like I knew enough people who were doing health communication. Like on my social media, I couldn't see a lot of health communicators. So I kind of took it upon myself to do a few courses in writing and communication. And I started to connect with very cool people on Instagram and sort of built a kind of community of health communicators. So now I would say that I do it part-time. I'm not yet making money from health communication, although I have published articles like News 24 and various blogs and things. I am very much still like locuming. That would be my primary salary, but I'm trying to edge more and more towards a space where I have a portfolio career, so I can do half sort of ED work and half writing. And I think that's the ultimate way that I can balance all my talents and things that I enjoy. You know, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you said very quickly when I approached you initially, well, I should just say that I'm not earning from this, so I don't know what I can contribute. To which I said, you're not earning yet.
Yes,
And
true.
I think it's so wonderful, first of all, you know, that you're in this space and you exploring and you not quite sure where it's headed, but you know, it's absolutely something that you're passionate about and you have the skill sets for.
Yeah.
And it's a you know, I mean, before we really go any further, there's a question in the chat is what is it? What is health communication?
Okay, so to put it very basically, health communication is the ability to read and understand very like complex scientific and health subjects, and then distill them or summarize them for the lay public, bearing in mind national and global health literacy levels. And then from there, obviously writing or communicating, if you're using video, it depends what kind of medium you use for your health communication. Being able to not only communicate the subject, but to inspire positive behavior changes in terms of health promoting behaviors. So yeah, there's a lot of courses you can do in science writing, different forms of health writing, and then in specifically persuasive health writing. A good communicator would be somebody who can, you know, say, these are the risk factors for bowel cancer. This is what you can do to prevent your risk of getting bowel cancer. And to actually get somebody to read that and start doing those positive things, that would be a good health communicator.
And you alluded to COVID.
Yes.
Never before has it been more apparent that we need health communicators like with COVID.
Yes.
Pre-vaccines and definitely with the vaccines.
Yeah, so that's another thing is most people these days are getting their health information from social media, and I think obviously as time goes on, it will be more than it is now. People primarily getting their information from social media and the internet. And misinformation and anecdotal stories spreads a lot faster than facts do. So we actually need more health communicators because there aren't enough of us to like, you know, course correct. There's so much misinformation. It's almost like we're drowning. And I feel like health communication is quite a new sort of thing that doctors can do. So yeah, if anyone's thinking of it, it's much needed and it will be in the future.
Yeah, and to quote another famous health communicator, data spreads faster than drama spreads faster than data. So
Yeah.
it's more, you know, shareable. It's more likable if something is edgy and sensationalist, just the headline, but the actual
Yes.
meat at the bottom.
Yeah.
But you know, I also put it to you and to all the doctors on the call that we do have to do better, because a lot of the information that's out there in the public domain, first of all, it's saturated with so much. But the people that have the real information and the people that have the real understanding of the science often don't take the time to put it very simply or very relatably. And that's really what I appreciate about your content. That, you know, and chatting to you like this, it comes through that you have a writing background and you've done these communication courses.
Yes.
And do you feel that this is absolutely a career path for you long term? I mean, you mentioned something about 50-50, that was your short to medium term goal.
Yeah.
But in an evolving field, is this something that you could foresee yourself, you know, making a full-on career out of?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So I've recently just finished a course and mentorship program with a health writer from Australia. If anybody wants to know about that, you can DM me. Obviously, you have to pay to do all these courses, so yeah. But anyway, she has been encouraging me and kind of opening my eyes to the world of health communication in terms of what you can do to get paid. It's a really, really broad career and it's largely self-directed. So if you want to make money, you have to do all these courses. You have to get a writing CV. You have to practice. You have to spend a lot of time not only writing and practicing your writing skills, but reading a lot. You have to stay as evidence-based as possible. And you know, to make money, you probably need to build a website, and that's where you would house your portfolio of your writing. Or if you're going to choose video as your health communication, you would have a website with your video communications. You know, that any prospective person who's going to employ you to write or communicate can see this is where all your information is, and they can choose to employ you from there. I'll just give you some ideas and things that I've been thinking of. So you could, you know, once you've established yourself as a health writer, you might write patient health education pamphlets for GP practices or hospitals. You might write content for the websites of like specialist doctors. You might work for like Discovery or, you know, various like health insurance kind of companies that you would write patient education for them and they would pay you. You can be paid as a science writer. So you would work with people who do clinical research and they would pay you to write the manuscript, or to review and edit the manuscripts. You can be paid to do so many different things. You can also be paid by pharmaceutical companies to write up drug pamphlets. I'm thinking there's a lot. It's very broad. My mentor also said sometimes just from having her website with her portfolio, she can be approached, and a company will say, we want you to write this, this, and this, and it's something she's never done before. You know, the kind of options are endless, but as I said, it's very self-directed. I'm in the process of thinking how I'm going to get my website up, writing in different formats so that I have more for my writing portfolio, and then I would actually pitch to different companies that I would like to work for, and then hopefully I can get to a point where I have clients that will pay me to do regular and consistent work. And especially with, you know, the world moving more in a kind of tech direction, this would be great as essentially as remote work. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I mean, I said at the beginning as well, I've started to enter somewhat into the sphere as well, with this space that I've created, but also with my current job. You know, health communication has to be seen as a growing field. And
yes,
you know, there was a statistic that I read the other day in 2019. So this is preceding pandemic. The WHO recognized vaccine hesitancy as one of the top 10 threats to global health.
yes.
And essentially what that means, if you break it down, is that was one, vaccine hesitancy is one of the top 10 reasons why world health, world life as we know it essentially could collapse.
Yes.
And hesitancy and addressing it, yes, it's not information alone, but information is really paramount to overcome it. So the more we're moving into this digital space, the more social media grows, the more we're evolving into the metaverse. You know, people like you and this type of content is really, really important. And, you know, I really hope that, you know, you grow from strength to strength, that you eventually do get paid for it. Do you have any last thoughts or advice that you'd like to give to any juniors on the call? I mean, first of all, you already mentioned fantastic resources that they could tap into, but any kind of philosophical thoughts, any words of encouragement?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you said you hope that one day I can hopefully earn money from it, but I would like to say that I think even if I never make money from it, which hopefully is unlikely, but I get a lot of joy from doing this health communication. I know it probably appears on my page like I'm just always either working or studying and reading, but I really enjoy it. And I don't know where I got this statistic, but somewhere I read that you only need to spend 20% of your week doing something you really love in order to avoid burnout. And I really feel that if I never make money from health communication, I enjoy reading about various topics that I might not be exposed to in my daily job. And I enjoy writing. It's a creative process, and then on Instagram I can be extra creative and add pictures and videos and things, and it brings me a lot of joy. So if you have like a creative outlet and you know, you might not make money from it, still explore it, build a page, connect with other people. The one thing about this sort of job is that I've connected with the most amazing people, and I feel like the hierarchy of medicine is almost dissolved online.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally friends with nurses with PhDs in Australia and surgeons and public health, people with masters in public health, and just all over the world, the most incredible people I've been able to connect with through doing health communication. So that's another plus. But yeah, if you're wanting to get into this, build a page, choose a platform. Some health communicators are all over. They're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok even. I don't really have time for all of them, so Instagram is my space. So choose a space, build a page, and connect with people. Send people personal messages. It's social media for a reason. So if you want to connect with a surgeon or I don't know, a scientist or whatever all over the world, send them a message, explain why you want to connect. start reading broadly, try to engage with different sort of conferences like this. There's ones like the Creative Careers in Medicine. It's run by Australian doctors, but they often talk about various avenues in medicine that you can explore. Look on Coursera and Udemy for writing and health communication courses, and just go from there. Yeah. And then eventually you might reach a space where you want to pitch to companies for paid work. But it is step by step. It takes time. You probably have to stay in your clinical job for a while you're building this. Yeah, but eventually you probably get to a space where you can balance. That's hopefully where I'm heading.
Definitely. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Amy. It is
You're
always
welcome.
wonderful to connect with you and finally to chat with you.
Yes, finally.
I hope we can connect and collaborate more in the future, but all the best.
Definitely.
And I'm looking forward to your website eventually when it's up and running.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Take care. Lastly, we have Peter Ann.
Hi,
How are you doing?
Adil.
How are you
Good, and how are
doing?
you?
I'm well. I'm very excited to have this conversation and very excited that you finally took me up on an offer to join Alive.
This one is one where I have no imposter syndrome at all. I think I can give some good advice here.
So for those that don't know, Peter Ann is the brain behind a really revolutionary app, I think. I don't know, to be honest. I haven't used it. A full disclaimer. I had no need for it where I am. But from what I've seen and what I've engaged with it a little bit, it really has the ability to change internship community service throughout. I say that because I imagine you have a great uptake for amongst junior doctors. But for those that don't know about WardWorks, could you tell us a little bit about it, and then obviously about yourself and how you somehow got into this space?
So my journey is a bit unique in the sense that I didn't hate my job as a doctor, but I did notice an overwhelming problem. And I've always been a bit of a creative person, an entrepreneur at heart, always wanting to create a solution or solve a problem rather than just complain about it. And I think it took a lot of bravery, but I now am the founder of WardWorks, which is a free app that helps medical doctors and healthcare professionals to keep track of their patients in a hospital setting, to keep track of their locations throughout the wards and what tasks need to happen for each day of the week for each of their patients, and share that information securely with other clinicians in their team. How I reached this space, I'm currently 2 years post-ComServe, but in my final year of medical school in 2016, I founded the internship organizer. I have one here as a little prop. So the internship organizer is a Jimmy book or award book that I created for my own internship. And it has grown from strength to strength and is now received by every medical school graduate in the country. But the problem was not fully solved. And I realized that technology was creeping its way into hospitals. Doctors were starting to use generic task management apps that have questionable security and questionable functionality that have not been created for the purpose. And I sort of found myself in a situation where it was, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? So yeah. Here I am.
Yeah, and I hope that you're only using that internship organizer as what, as a doorstop now, or as a coffee table?
No, the internship organizer is in its sixth edition, and it will be received by every medical school graduate in the country this the next 2 months. And this is a print proof of the print that's currently happening.
Okay. No offense. Well, look, why I say that is because I assume the WardWorks should be replacing these kind of things. I assume WardWorks should be replacing not only Jimmy books. I have flashbacks when you say Jimmy to A5 hardcover book with, very untidy handwriting and hand-drawn lines and, notes falling out of the edges. I assume that that's your vision, right? To replace the Jimmy book and more.
Well, I think there's a place for everything, and that's what WardWorks' goal is not to add a layer of work, but actually work in synergy with how doctors currently work. I used to laugh off the option of an app when I used to pitch the internship organizer to various stakeholders, and they would ask me, is it an app? And I'd say, you have no idea what it's like to work on the front line in South Africa. You cannot use an app. It's too crazy. But then I've risen to that challenge with my team, and we're actually making an app that's simplifying the work. And whilst it is aiming to replace little scrap pieces of paper and task lists and writing on the back of your hand and then scrubbing in for theatre and then the task list is gone, it's trying to replace that, but it isn't by no means, it aims to slot in with your current workflow. It aims to not add a layer of work, but actually simplify the work that you're currently doing. So it's not replacing the patient file. It's not replacing the way that you currently interact with your team. It's just making that communication closed loop so that everybody's in the same page. Excuse the pun, it's not a page anymore, but same page. But I think doctors will always love paper. There's something satisfying about scratching out a task like viciously that it has been completed. But we hope to work like in unison with those sort of people.
And yeah, I mean, it's a great segue into the next question, which is, why is it important then to have people like yourself and others in this space, doctors, in developing apps? One of your mottos, I think, is for doctors by doctors, and you touched on it now that you had these experiences, and you said you laughed off the fact that we would use an app on the front line, but it sounds like you have really sat with it and grappled with what it is the end user experience is going to be like. So without giving my thoughts too much, why is it important then to have doctors as entrepreneurs, doctors in the health tech space?
I think it would be a tragedy for health systems if these sort of apps are created by teams of IT nerds and corporates in suits. We need to create the solutions that we want to work with. I always say my one piece of advice for someone who wants to step into this world is to complete your internship and complete your ComServe, because the world wants what you are going to get during those years. It's time in those tackies, in those scrubs. It's experience on the front line so that you can actually innovate and see the problems and apply the talents that you have and apply the analytical thinking that we've actually been taught in diagnostics, and use that ability to actually see a problem and apply yourself to it. I think when you start researching into the very buzzword startup scene, when you start reading books, there's a business theory called lean strategy, and a lot of it is customer orientated, and I sort of fell into that, and I knew nothing, so I would read those books, and I started with my customers, and I was lucky that I was one of the customers. And I think your customer and your client is everything. If it wasn't for my colleagues using the app, interacting with the app, telling me what they like, telling us what they don't like, asking for new features, then WardWorks wouldn't be what it is today. And I think if you are the client, if you are the frontline worker and the doctor, the solution is bound to be a success, because you are meeting them where you've been. You're not claiming to understand a problem like a corporate would, too distant, but solve the problem you've actually experienced.
Yeah. And you touched on, it was a very brave step that you took, a courageous step that you took. I can only imagine, because, thinking about this live, I had a similar thought, a moment of reflection when I did my internship, and thinking, surely there's better ways to do these things. But never in my mind did I connect the two, that I could be the one that could actually do this. How did you transition into this space? I mean, did you have mentorship? Did you have guidance? How did you eventually figure out, I can be this person that can create the change that I want for myself?
I think I positioned myself in a place where I could be brave, because I had the success story of 4 years of the internship organizer behind me. I had a little bit of business savvy that I had gained from doing the internship organizer. I knew the space well, I knew the clients well, I knew how to access funds for it. So the internship organizer now has adverts for various corporate sponsors, and WardWorks is now the same. I knew that doctors needed a free app because most of the other apps are free and people just want free apps.
Yeah.
So I reached out to various corporates and have now, in a seamless and non-obtrusive way, put advertisements within WardWorks. But I think that led me to be brave. And I think once I realized that ComServe that box was ticked, I gave myself some headspace. So I had a plan to take 2 months off. WardWorks was only like an idea in February after my ComServe. And I think it was just that headspace that allowed me to have that time to innovate and to be creative and to just be myself again. Because my internship in ComServe is not unique to any of the others that have had it. It's tough, and you get burnt out and you get tired and you almost don't recognize yourself anymore. So I think it was that 2 months to just breathe and realize that I have what it takes to give this a good go.
And kudos to you, because I think a lot of people would have either, just brushed it off and said, okay, well, internship organizer was great, but I don't really have what it takes to change much further than this. So really hats off to you, and I really wish you strength from strength, and expecting great things also, just by the way. But one of the challenges, and we can get to the challenges in a moment, but one of the challenges I think that you have is this concept that people see you as an app creator, and they think, oh, okay, so you must be some IT nerd, you have a friend or a colleague that knows how to make an app, and you just kind of run it on the side, and then that's that. They don't see the business behind it. You're actually running a business. What are some of those challenges of actually running a business? You see, we have a little bit of business acumen and experience, but as doctors, we don't get this kind of training or exposure. So
you're 100% right.
Yeah.
6 years of med school. The world looks at 6 years of med school and they think we become these extremely well-rounded, intelligent people. But meanwhile, we know a lot about some things and almost nothing about the rest of the world. So I think I read a lot. I'm not a big reader, but I watched a lot of YouTube videos, got Audible, listened to audio books, read the buzzword books that would come up in all the podcasts and things that I would listen to. I have a list of them that I'm going to recommend at one stage, and I'll also put it in the comments. But I also reached out to people and just rose to each challenge, because you're right, it is a business and it is a tech solution, but it has to be sustainable. You have to somehow make it a sustainable business so that you can continue doing that. I currently work part-time, so I didn't leave clinical medicine. I work mornings only. Oh, my light has just gone off. I work mornings only, and in a clinical setting, and then in the afternoons I run WardWorks, but it's by no means an afternoons only job. It's a 24/7 job. I often laugh and say I don't do 24-hour calls anymore, but WardWorks is a 24/7 job. You never stop thinking about it. You never stop. You have to wear many, many hats as the founder of a startup. You have to understand finance, understand marketing, understand security. And I've been supported by an incredible technical team. And so, no, I do not code a single line of code on WardWorks. Thank goodness, because you need to let them do that, because they're really good at it, and you can sort of steer the ship. Not too sure if I answered the question. It's a complicated space to be in, and I can so relate to what was said about everybody saying are you going to specialize? On a daily basis, in a business call, people will ask me, am I going to leave clinical medicine? The very same day in a clinical setting, somebody will ask me if I'm going to specialize. People are never going to stop imposing their predetermined expectations for your life. You need to just brush it off and say, I'm on my own path and I'm going to figure it out along the way.
Yep. Love it. Before I use up any more of your after hour WardWorks time, do you have any parting advice for junior doctors, students on the call? that have an idea, to absolutely revolutionize medical care, either patient management or anything, either in health tech or in health business in general. Do you have any advice for them?
So advice number one is finish your internship at ComServe. Don't do anything that the A-type medical student inside you is going to regret one day. Just finish that box, tick that box, and you can innovate along the way and notice the problems along the way. I would say build a LinkedIn presence, start to follow various health tech, entrepreneurial pages, hashtags. And remember, on LinkedIn, if you like something or comment on something, everybody knows that you did. So just choose wisely the patterns that you'd like to comment and like, so that people will start to see you as more than just a doctor or more than just a medical student, but somebody who's broadening their horizons and thinking about those sort of spaces. Because these sort of health companies need what you've got. They need clinicians that have upskilled themselves into tech, into entrepreneurship, into strategy, into any sort of business skill. So build a LinkedIn presence and keep it going, because it's an incredible platform, and I've met a lot of interesting people along the way. I would say watch Silicon Valley, the series on Showmax. It's a little bit crude,
okay.
but it taught me a lot of the buzzwords, the concepts that I wouldn't have known. And people don't just teach it to you because you didn't, you weren't exposed to it and you haven't read all the books in the world. But watch it, it's entertaining, and you'll learn a lot about the tech side of things. Books that I could recommend is Talking to Humans. So before you start creating a solution for any problem, Talking to Humans teaches you how to put yourself in the client's shoes and the customer's shoes and go and sort of validate that problem and validate that solution before you innovate and waste any money on a problem, solving the problem in the incorrect way. So Talking to Humans is a free PDF. I can maybe send it to you, Adil, and you can pass it on if anyone reaches out for it. But I think if you Google Talking to Humans free PDF, it's a nonprofit side of one of the Ivy League universities. The other book is The Lean Startup. If you read one book, I would say it would be The Lean Startup. People talk about the buzzwords that are in the Lean Startup all the time. Don't be intimidated by it. Just every time you find this buzzword, just Google it and write it down. I literally have an A to Z on my phone of like beta. What is beta? Oh, it's an app that hasn't been launched yet. You just go and you learn all the words, and you don't have to ask on the calls like, what is that? Look out for internships. There are very few health tech startups and tech companies in South Africa, but look out for internships that they may be offering. Look out for hackathons that you might be able to put yourself in a clinical perspective. There's lots of pages on LinkedIn, groups that are trying to, innovate in the space and looking for doctors. Once again, LinkedIn. I think that would be it. And talk to people. So reach out to people. Don't feel intimidated by somebody like me or the team of another startup. Call them, DM them, ask them, what are you guys doing? Do you need any help? How can I do this? How can I learn that? Which YouTube video should I watch next? Just reach out to people. You'll be very, the spirit of Ubuntu is very strong in the health tech space. And that's how I learned a lot of what I've learned, is people have taught me because I asked.
Yeah. LinkedIn, not just for old people.
No.
Yeah. Fantastic, very practical advice. Yes, if anybody does want some of those links, be sure to DM me, and I can, I'll get those resources from you. Thank you very much, Peter-Ann. Absolute pleasure to have you.
Such a pleasure.
Really insightful. And yeah, if you haven't downloaded WardWorks yet,
yes, please give it a go. Please. I'm going to just do a little plug in here. Download WardWorks, go to wardworks.app, free on iOS and Google Play. Give it a go. Let us know what you like, what you hate, and we'll fix it and we'll get better with you.
Love it. Thanks very much, Peter-Ann. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye. So that's basically it from me. I think it's been a really inspiring chat. I've really learned a lot from what health education, what health communication actually is, to how to run a startup, a few Netflix shows that I should watch as well. But I think the overall gist and overall theme of today is to remember that, guys, there's no rules. There's no standard hymn sheet that we all need to follow when you finish med school. The path is your own, and you can create it. You don't have to ascribe to anybody's values of you. Peter Ann mentioned something so beautiful that, why are we curtailing to other people's values? If you don't want to space, you don't want to space. And I think it's very important to remember that an M-Med doesn't define you. What defines you is your empathy. Over and over again, it's been shown that empathy and understanding people and having compassion is the most important leadership skill that you can have in business, in life, in any career path. And so when it comes to skills development, really ask yourself, what are the skills that you want to acquire? Yes, you can put in 150 chest trains. Yes, you can, intubate somebody. Yes, you can put in sutures for days. But are those the skills that you really want for you? I mean, if you want to be an emergency medicine registrar, by all means, again, not stepping on anybody's toes. But most people don't want that. Most people want a lot more out of life, and want alternative options. So by making yourself holistic, by diversifying your CV and yourself, it's really an opportunity for you to grow and to look at these roles holistically. So in closing, I just want to say, for you to recognize that your MBCHP, your MBBS, it's actually a stepping stone. It's not your end. It's a massive opportunity that you have once you completed your 6 years. And that opportunity, you can make whatever you want to make of it. I recently heard of a concept called health in all policies. And what that says is that when it comes to policy creation, and be it in business or in the political sense, is to consider health in every policy that you make. From making potholes to delivering nutrition packages, there has to be a health consideration in everything. And for me, that resonated so much with me that you as a health professional have the ability to impact in every single policy that's been created. And that is so true. And as I said at the beginning, it's about finding the value of your health intuition and your health background in all spaces, not just the clinical space. And very lastly, it's just for my wish for everybody really, is to know your worth. I've had so many people over the years, friends and colleagues, that are looking at non-clinical jobs or non-traditional jobs, reach out and say, am I really qualified for this job? I don't have any research experience. I don't have this experience. Guys, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your MBCHB has given you that opportunity. It's giving you that ticket. So use what you have, but not be limited by it. If a job says recommended 5 years, 10 years experience, or recommended to have an MPH or MBA or something, those are just recommendations. Apply for those jobs, obviously within a ballpark. Don't apply for the Dean of Medicine, for example, but within a ballpark, have the self-confidence and the self-belief that you are worthy of those positions, and that you are not just a doctor with the MBCHB. You are a lot more. You have a lot more to offer, and you will grow in the role. The roles are developing and changing all the time, and you have the ability and the aptitude, because of your MBCHB and because of the person that you are, to thrive in those roles. So I hope I've inspired you to ask a little bit about what else, and look what else is out there. There have been some fantastic, really practical advice given by the panel. If by now you don't know, start your LinkedIn profile. You can connect with me as well. And yeah, it's a really great opportunity to learn and to grow. Some of the other resources that Amy referenced, the Coursera and the MOOCs, there's tons of online stuff. And a lot of it is free, guys. A lot of it is free. But in follow-up, I just wanted to say that I'm planning a few more of these sessions if they are of value to you, especially if you are a medical student or if you're a junior doctor, something that I quite enjoy. I really enjoy chatting and coaching people. There was a question in the chat about how to go about looking and where do you find these non-clinical jobs. I'm planning a follow-up session about the job application process, from where to look, how best to prepare your CV, and then ultimately how to go about an interview. Because guys, an interview isn't an OSCE, right? They're not going to. There's no marks involved, so it's really about shifting your mindset to being the best candidate that you can be. So if you think that would be of value to me, to you, please DM me or let me know in the comments. But otherwise, thank you very much for tuning in and have a lovely evening. Take care. Bye.